Hello, third graders. Okay, yesterday you were asked to do your study guide for tomorrow's test. So right now we're just going to go through it and make sure that you have the correct answers. If you have any problems or concerns, you can email me after if you don't understand why something is the answer it is. Okay, number 1 says, what time does the clock show? Okay, when I look at the hands, remember I always look at the hour hand first, which is my short hand. And my hour hand looks like it's right here. I'm going to use my ruler just to help me. My hour hand was pointing past the 2 but not at the 3 yet, which means my hour is 2 o'clock. And then when I look at the minute hand, I count by 5s. So I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and it didn't quite hit the 35. So it's 31, 32, 33, and 34. So my time is 2:34, which is A. All right, number 2 says, Mike's concert started at 6:49 and ended at 7:14. How long was the concert? Okay, there's many strategies I could use for this. I could have used a clock if they had given me one, which they didn't really give me one for this. So that strategy is probably not going to work so well. I could use like an adding or a subtracting strategy. I could even use a number line strategy. So those are just a few of the strategies that we had practiced when we had done this together. Okay, I know that to get from 6:49 to 7 would take how many minutes? Well, 6:49 to 7 is going to be 11 minutes because minutes only go to 60. So 6 hours and 60 minutes equals 7 o'clock. So I know it needs to be 11 minutes to get to 7. And then I need 11 plus 14 more minutes to get to 7:14 would give me 25 minutes. So that's kind of how I would have thought about that problem. Okay, let's look at number 3. Number 3 says, B started reading at 8:56. She finished an hour. An hour means 1 hour, and 15 minutes later. What time did she finish? Okay, well, if she started at 8:56 and she finished 1 hour later, 1 hour later would be 9:56, but then it was 1 hour and 15 minutes. So now I have to add the 15 minutes to this. Well, if I add 4 minutes to 9:56, I'm going to get 10 o'clock, which means I have to add 11 more minutes because I want that whole thing to equal 15. So I'm getting 10:11 would be her time. Okay, let's look at number 4. Number 4 says measure the liquid volume in the container. It looks like they were counting by hundreds because that would be 200, 300, 400, 500, and 600. So I'm going to say 600 milliliters. On this one, it doesn't really give me a lot of information because I don't know. What I do know though is my line is under the 500, which tells me it can't be 700. It can't be 1,000 because 1,000's up here, and it couldn't be 900. So the only choice I really have would be B, which is 400. Okay, let's look at number 6. There are 640 milliliters of chocolate milk in a jug. If 8 people share it evenly, how much would each person get? Okay, So that tells me that I have 640 milliliters, and they want me to share it, which means I'm gonna divide it but to the 8 people. That's what they're telling me. Okay, so that's a division problem, which would be, my answer would be there. So I know that I have to pass out or divide this into 8 groups. That's going to take a very long time if I wanted to do an array. If I wanted to do an array, it would be a very long time to pass out 640 into 8. So I would have to go like, you know, eight groups, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I'd have to keep passing them out. But can you imagine, boys and girls, how many I would have to pass out all 640? That would take forever. But I could use another strategy, because I could think about this. If I passed out 640 to 8 people, are they going to get only 10? That doesn't make sense, because if I gave 8 people 10 each, that would be 8 times 10, that would only be 80. And I have a lot more than that to pass out, so I know that can't be my answer. What if I divided it and gave 8 people only 4 each? That would be 8 times 4, which equals 32. Is that going to be enough? No, they're going to get a lot more than that. What if I gave the 8 people each 9? Some of us have learned our facts. If 8 people each got 9, that would be 72. That was not enough. So the correct answer is 80. Another way that I think about this is I know that 8 times 8 is 64. So then with the extra 0, it's 640. That's a pretty tricky problem. All right, let's look at number 7. Number 7 says a bottle of 90 milliliters of, a bottle contained 90 milliliters of sodium hydroxide. A science teacher used 64 milliliters in an experiment. How much is left in the bottle? Well, that tells me I'm going to use some subtraction. So 90 minus 64. And when I subtract and borrow, I'm getting 26 milliliters. Okay, number 8. Each of Jessica's figurines weighs 40 grams. How much do 5 figurines weigh? Well, that I could do a few ways. I could say she has 5 of them, so I could add. So if I had 5 of them and they each weighed 40, and I added those, I'd get 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 20. So I'm getting 200. Another strategy, which you'll learn more in 5th grade, is I know that 5 times 4 is 20, and then the extra 0 makes it 200. Okay, let's look at number 9. Number 9 says, the table lists descriptions of time. Write the letter of the clock in the response bank that matches each description. 1 clock will not be used. Okay, if 1 clock will not be used, how I would probably go about this, ladies and gentlemen, is the first thing I would do is I would go through and check the times and figure out what times I have. So if this first one, my hour looks like it's past the 3 but not at the 4 yet, so it's 3. And my minutes are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. It's a little bit hard to tell with that. I think it's maybe 41. It's hard to tell if it's a 41 or a 42. Even if I get my ruler, let's see exactly where is that pointing to. I think it's 41. Okay, let's look at my next one. So my hour is past the 7 but not yet at the 8. And my minutes are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and that looks like 27. Okay, this one, my hour, ooh, it's a little tricky. It's kind of, is it at the 5 or after the 5? I'm gonna use my ruler to help me. Oh, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. When I look at the 5, I notice that it's past the 5. So my hour's 5, and my minutes are 5, and then is it pointing, looks like it's pointing right there, which would be 5:08, because it didn't get to the 10 yet. This one, my hour is pointing past the 11, but not at the 12 yet. And my time is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So now that I did that, I should be able to go back and check it and see, now fill in my answers. Okay, so ready, 10 minutes after 4:58. Which one is 10 minutes after? Well, if I look at my time choices, I know it's this one, because 2 minutes after 4:58 would be 5, and then 8 more minutes would be 8. So that is clock C. 20 minutes before. Before means happened earlier. Before 7:47, 20 minutes would be 7:27. And 11:35 is D exactly. So that's how I would have attacked that problem. Okay, let's look at number 10. What time was it 15 minutes before the time shown on this clock? Okay, so let's first figure out the time on this clock. My hour is not yet at the 2, so the hour is 1. And my minutes are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 51, 52. So 55, 56, 57. Okay, so 15 minutes before means I can go backwards. I could even subtract 15 minutes. And when I subtract, I get 142. All right, let's move on to number 11. Number 11 says, a bag of popcorn has a mass of 336 grams. Marty served himself 42 grams of popcorn. What is the mass remaining? Well, that is a subtraction problem. So I'm just going to subtract, and I get 6 minus 2 is 4. 3 minus 4 you can't do, so let's borrow. 13 minus 4 is 9, and 2 minus nothing is 2. So 294 grams. All right. Kylie and her friends started playing mini golf at 11:07. They finished their game 51 minutes later. So later means after. What time did they finish playing mini golf? So at that one I actually could add. And remember, the only time about the adding is I have to be careful to know that the minutes only go up to 60. But this one I could add. So I have 11:58. It said I could use this clock to help me, but I chose a different strategy. All right, number 13 says, decide if the mass of each object, decide if the mass of each object is most likely measured in grams or kilograms. Grams or kilograms. Okay, well, grams are paper clips, and kilograms are bananas, if you remember that. Grams are, so that would be a big difference there. Okay, so when we go to do that, let's see, it says an alligator. Let's look at the alligator. And with the alligator, would we be using our smaller measurement of paper clips, or should we use a much larger measurement of, I think it would be smart to use our largest measurement because that alligator is awful big. So let's say kilograms. Okay, a mouse is pretty small. So think about like a big bunch of bananas. and think of a little mouse. I think a mouse is smaller than the bananas, so we should use grams. A bee is definitely smaller than a bunch of bananas. And an elephant is definitely large, so we should choose that one. Okay, let's look at number 14. Margarita thinks each item below weighs about 1 gram. Do you agree with Margarita? Okay, and we just said 1 gram is about a paper clip. That's our measurement system. So do we agree a pin might be the same as a paper clip? I think so. What about a Band-Aid? Yeah, they're really small and they're really light. What about a banana? No, not at all. And what about a feather? No. I'm sorry, yes, a feather weighs hardly anything. Okay, let's look at number 15. A bottle contains 500 milliliters of water, so 1 bottle. Tiffany thinks the liquid volume of a 6-pack of water is 600 milliliters. This is her work. 500 times 6 equals 600. Do you agree with her? No, I don't agree with her. There's a few reasons I don't agree with her. One reason I don't agree with her is I know that if I had 6 500s, it would be much more than 600. So I could have said that's I know 6 500s would be much larger than 600. I do know that. That's a pretty easy way to look at that. I also know, because I'm a little bit older, actually a lot older, I know how to multiply that. And I know that if I multiplied it, I would come up with 3,000. I also know how to add though, and you probably know this. You could do 500 6 times. If I get 500 plus 500, I get 1,000. And if I get another 500, because I have 6 of them, 500, that would give me another 1,000. And another 500 plus 500 is 1,000. So wouldn't I have 3,000s? So I could have said that too, that I know 6 500s equals 1,000. Or I could have said, I know 6 times 500 equals 3,000. There's lots of ways I could have said that I know Tiffany's incorrect. Okay, let's turn our page to our last problem. Janet got in the tub at 5:16 and got out of the tub 51 minutes later. Okay, so that would be I would have to add them, but watch what's going to happen when I add them. There's a little bit of a problem here. 6 plus 1 is 7, and 1 plus that is 60. Notice that I cannot have something past 67 because 67 equals more than an hour. So I know that 60 would have been an hour, and then the other 7 would just be the extra minute. So I know it's 6:07 is how we would read that, what time she got out of the tub. And if I want to show this, my hour hand has to be past the 7, but not yet at the 8, and my hour hand has to be short. And my minute hand has to be long and has to be at the 7. So this is the 5, 6, 7. So here's my 7, and I could use my ruler if I wanted to, and it's going to go right at the 7 mark, and that shows me 6:07. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you have corrected your study guide and you are using it today to study for tomorrow's test. Have a nice day. Bye.